Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Socratic Dialogue. Before we begin, please, everyone, let's introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I am Aditya from the team, the Pareto Practitioners. I'm the coach and I'm from Deep Thought.
Hello everyone, I'm Devanjana and I'm the member of Pareto Practitioners.
Hello everyone, I'm Abhirami and I'm a member of the team Pareto Practitioners.
Hi everyone, my name is Trishti and I'm the coach of the Habit Lab.
Hello everyone, I am Nihal and I am the member of Team Habit Lab.
Hello everyone, I am Swayam and I am from the team Habit Lab.
Hello, everyone. This is Pratik Raj as the moderator of this today's Socratic Dialogue. And also, we have one jury member, Lohit. And please, Lohit, introduce yourself.
Hi guys, this is Lohit. I'm the founder and CEO of OnlyClick.
Hi everyone, I am Artwa. I'll be your co-moderator today. And thank you, Rohit, for being here. It's really exciting for everybody.
So, yeah,
Over to the
the
first
topic
team.
of today's Socratic
Go ahead, Prati, go ahead.
Yes, the topic of today's Socratic dialogue is the operations. We have two teams, the Pareto practitioners and the Habit Lab. So I'd like to go. Which team would like to go first?
Yeah, we would like to go first, Pratik.
Sure, Aditya. Go first. First, tell the reason behind why did you choose this name and also the summary of your pitch.
Okay, so should I start?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we chose the name the Pareto Practitioners because great operations are not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. So there's a principle called the Pareto principle that shows that a small number of actions drive the majority of outcomes. Our presentation explores how identifying those critical few processes, removing bottlenecks, and reflecting on execution can transform productivity from effort into intelligent systems. And talking about summary, so we usually think that productivity comes from working harder or gaining more experience. That's what we have been taught, right? Like work harder and gain more experience, you will be more productive. But today we want to look at it differently. Through everyday examples and simple questions, we will explore how real improvement happens when we understand the process behind what we do and how small changes in the way we work can create surprisingly big results. So, Abhinami, can you the first slide? Yeah, thank you. So, in most situations, chaos doesn't come from people working less. It comes from work not being structured clearly. When the work of flow is undefined, tasks move randomly, coordination breaks, and improvement becomes accidental. Operation changes this by creating clarity in how work moves from start to finish, allowing teams to move from reactive effort to consistent execution. Next slide, Abhinami. Thank you, Abhinami. So, but even when better ways exist, we tend to repeat old methods because familiarity feels safe and working feels good enough. So, real changes usually begins when delays, errors, or repeated problems force us to pause and ask why. That moment of curiosity helps us break work into small parts, identify bottlenecks, and move from simply completing tasks to consciously improving how the work is done. Over to you, Devanjana. Devanjana,
Devanjana,
you're
you're
on mute.
on mute.
Hello, am I audible now? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine you were at a coffee shop and there's a long line. Most people just see a slow barista, but an operator looks closer, differently. Is the milk streamer broken, or is the person taking orders also the one grabbing the muffins? So, most of the cases we see task as one big gear. You just do it. But an operator sees the workflow. Think of a chain. If one link is weak, the whole thing snaps. In this slide, we can see that the tasks are actually systems of micro steps like planning, coordination, considering these things, and the real performance killers aren't those slow workers. They are invisible bottlenecks hiding in the transitions between these steps. Once you see the workflow, you can diagnose that. Next slide, please. Now, if that coffee shop only tastes good when one specific manager is working, that's called talent. It's personal. You can't scale. You can't open 100 shops if you only have one star manager. If we write down exactly how to froth the milk, the sequence of the orders, and further on the documentation process as well, that excellence becomes a superior system. It performs cannot be taught. It cannot be scaled as well. Next slide, please.
Debanjana, can we shorten the pitch? It's been over 2 minutes.
Sure. Thank you. So finally, I just have a short question. Does making 1,000 lattes make you a master? No, if we make them in a same repetitive way, that's called repetition, which leads to a plateau. True improvement happens in a loop, such as considering plan, execution, and most importantly, reflect. If barista notices I'm taking 5 minutes to pour each of the sugar, I should adjust the process and thus reflect on that. This is called refinement. Now over to Abhirami.
So, in most processes, the impact is not evenly spread. It is always a small part of the workflow which acts as a bottleneck and controls the overall output. In high performing teams, they focus mostly in this small bottleneck and not everywhere. Most of the teams tend to miss this because they don't see the overall process. And that's how they miss the vital, critical part, which is going to have a huge impact. When the time is tight, the goal is not to finish things faster, but to finish it with a flow. So the smart preparation helps in reducing the failure and when the tasks are repeatable. In fast feedback environment, over planning will slow down learning. Strong operators usually see the cost of delay against the cost of failure and act where the impact is going to be the highest. Top performers are not usually the hardest working people. They run better personal systems. They structure their works, they use tight feedback loops, and remove bottlenecks earlier. Organizations gain from these by capturing these practices and scaling them through sprints and mentoring and standard work. So, I would like to conclude by saying that focusing on what matters most, acting with clarity, and scaling proven practices can turn everyday operations into lasting excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Pareto practitioners. Over to Team Habit Lab for questions. Please keep the questions short and relevant to the topic.
So the first question I have is, does the Pareto principle apply to systems that are interdependent? For example, if we have an organization and we remove the people doing the 20% of the work, the 80% people who are driving the 20% work, does that mean that the execution will move on as it is, or were these people being supported invisibly?
Yeah, I'll answer your question, Drishti. So the Pareto principle means that 20% of workload or 20% of tasks, actually they are responsible for 80% of execution. So the major 20% is responsible, the task. So yes, the answer is yes. In even in organizations, the Pareto principle is applied because the bottlenecks are there in every organization, and the bottlenecks are the reason that tasks get delay, or like the work feels very extreme. So Pareto principle solves that.
Was that the question you had, Krishna? Because I
No.
feel like there was a gap between the question and the answer that was given.
Yes.
Please
My question.
clarify the question.
Yes. My question referred to not just tasks. I understand how the Pareto principle applies to tasks, but does it also apply to interdependent systems where people are involved? Do you believe that in an organization, suppose 20% of the people do the work that produces 80% of the results? Does that mean that the 80% who are doing the 20% work, should they be removed from the organization?
Okay, so let me just clarify. Your major question is if 20% of people do the 80% of the work, and so can we remove the 80% of the people who just complete 20% of the work?
Yes, are they disposable in the
No, I
sense?
don't think, according to me, that's my personal opinion. I don't think they are disposable. They are a crucial part of the company. And of course, they are human beings, so they can learn. They can shift to that 20% people. They can improve their efficiency, and they can the whole like together the whole organization can convert into a more 100% people doing 100% of tasks.
Uh, I would like to add to what Aditya said. Uh, as you asked, should the 20% of the people be removed? I won't say so because, as I said, there are even very small parts of a process is going to have a huge impact on the outcome that's being produced. So you can't really say that the execution done by the 80% of people, the 20% execution is not meaningful enough because that can be the ones that cause the huger impact. So
But
removing one
isn't,
small thing is
Abhiran, I think we're going
yeah,
on multiple tangents. You're contradicting what you said in Pareto's principle, right? Pareto's principle means that 20% of effort leading to 80% of results, right?
yeah.
So if that is what the what meaningful work is. And to come back to Drishti, not sure how it could apply for people. When you said 20% of people are doing the work which is leading to 80% of execution, it might not be 20% of people. It's the system that's enabling the people to do the 20% which is leading to 80%. Isn't that the whole idea of the pitch you guys are trying to make?
So,
Over to, yeah, Drishti, please go ahead.
just to conclude, we are agreeing that the Pareto principle only applies to systems and not interdependent places where people are involved.
Like majorly, yes. Like it depend. Like it's applied majorly on tasks and not on people, according to me. Yes.
We can move on to the next question.
Over to whoever has the next question.
I'll go ahead with my next question then.
Go ahead.
I've heard this time and again, this 2080 distinction. But we all know that it's not 2080, it can be 40/60, 30/70, whatever. So, do you think that if this ratio is flexible, is it even a principle or is it just a loose observation that is dressed up as a law?
Drishti, I think the idea of this conversation was to talk about how their whatever system they have thought of is enabling productivity as a culture inside the organization. We're not going to dissect Pareto's principle. Maybe that's another completely different loop.
Okay, understood.
Who wants to go next?
Guys, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So, do you guys think that this principle is applicable in every situation, like even in 100% situations?
No. Of course, it's a principle. Like principles are not true. It's written on theory, and it's not true for every organization, every situation. It is flexible. Like of course, yeah, Swayam. Okay,
You can
sorry.
answer.
So it's of course it's applicable to some like most of the situations, but it doesn't mean that it will apply on every situation and every organization.
Yeah, great answer.
What happens to the
Uh,
situations where it doesn't apply? What about the outliers? How do you deal with outliers in your system?
So of course the major goal of today's SD is to increase productivity. We have to focus on reflections, and like that's the major key point we told everyone, that reflecting on our executions and decreasing familiarity. So people tend to work only with familiar problems. Like we are familiar with this problem, so we'll only work with this. And also this mindset that if it's working, everything is great. We have to change this. And so even in the organizations where Pareto principle does not apply, we can still, focus on that mindset and improve productivity.
How would you change it?
As I said, like remove, or like teaching people not to think like that. Think like that. If the tasks are if the task is working, if the application is working, it's good. We don't have to change anything. Thinking differently, improving your processes, it increases productivity.
I would like to add one more thing. Like before going into the depth of any of the principles, we need to first observe that what is broken, upon which we can think of that what do we exactly need to like modify.
Okay. Swam, you had a question.
Yeah, I think I would like to answer Lohit, and I think I would contradict to what Aditya said. Pareto's rule is actually applicable to, I mean, I have to be on the safer side to most of the situations, because nature is not symmetric. See, there is disparity everywhere, and Pareto's rule is the core rule is to talk about disparity. It's not hard coded 80 or 20, but there is always a small amount of task which actually leads to a high amount of output. So I think it's applicable to most of the situations, but it's the 80-20 part is not hard coded. That's what I would like to
Yeah,
say.
the
And
ratio
depending,
varies, of course.
Yeah, but it's applicable in most of the situations.
Okay.
So next, yes.
Moving on to questions that actually are about the topic. Um, it will be connected to Pareto's law because that is their
Four,
um,
yes. Please go
yeah.
ahead.
So when you say that, identify the 20% that is driving the 80% outcome, and you're saying that identifying that 20% will drive productivity, how do we identify the 20%? You haven't talked about that.
say Drishti, that might vary upon considering different factors. We have to first go with our purpose and objective, upon which we can segregate the measurement, output, values that we want to um, get from that very particular scenario or upon that very project. So, and
I did not get your answer. You're saying that based on what outcome or objective we want, we should segregate.
okay, could you please like throw your question again?
My question is that how do we identify this 20%? If that is the key to boosting productivity, then how do we identify this 20%?
Okay, so how we are segregating those measurable indicators that might lead us to observe at which point we are breaking down. Thus, we will be able to understand that what core 20% that is leading us.
How do you break down measurable indicator? So sorry, Rishi.
That might depend on different metrics, tools.
What are the metrics and tools? Your entire pitch is around this, no? So you would have thought about something.
If we take an example for a very scenario, and if we consider that in terms of deliverables or KPIs, so we may go with those metrics that how we are measuring the deliverables or those values based upon our objective.
So then, before doing the work itself, suppose we have some metric. How do we identify at this point that this would be the work that would be crucial? How do we separate the 20% there?
Okay, so we can divide the task, divide the work into outputs and inputs. So inputs are basically things like inputs like there are instances. How many employees did it take, or how many hours? So basically, everything that goes towards the task is an input, and output. So what value did it create? How many, like how good the output was? What are the financial profits we gained is the outcome outputs. So yeah, if we calculate the ratio of inputs and outputs, then we can define before actually executing the task, we can define it. If
Then according to
You're
prioritization,
saying that before doing anything, it is possible to define what 20% would drive the 80% outcome.
like of course we know about the task, and before we execute a task, we plan systems, we plan everything. Okay, how many people will work on this, and how long will it take, and what will be the expected financial outcome, or what will be the expected outcome. So based on that, we will decide if that task is actually in the 20% or if it's in the 80%.
Uh, Adding to what Aditya said, I guess it all depends on how you structure your process. If there is a clarity in your process, if you know like step by step what you're going to do, you can know which step is actually going to have a huge impact, like which is the crucial step that is going to affect. Or if I like, you can identify that if I do something wrong at this point, it's going to affect my overall outcome, like in a huge way. That can be easily identified only when your process is structured and you have a proper clear system there.
Isn't that an
So
assumption or a bias?
sorry.
Wouldn't that be an assumption or a bias?
uh,
Without assumption, we can't test and trial, right? There must be assumptions to map out the process.
So, what are you saying? You can identify the 20% before execution or not? I think that you're speaking at both ends.
Okay, so according to me, like of course in theory again, planning a task and actually executing a task is the difference between theory and practical. We can plan like in our brain or in our notes, we can plan it out, and in theory, we can mark it as the 20%, or if it lies in the 80%. However, the actual execution may differ. However, the actual execution, it may have some biases. It may have some different key points. So, even if the execution changes, the outcome will change according to that.
I
If the
think what the
task,
main is no.
Because
You go with the bias that this might be the 20%. Once you execute, you get to see if this is the 20% or not. If not, you change.
yes.
okay, suppose we have
Drishti,
based on
I would love for you to go ahead with the question, but in the interest of time, we'll close this round so that you guys can get a chance at pitching as well. Please go
sure,
ahead.
sure,
Please
sure.
keep in mind that it's for 2 minutes, so you can shorten your pitch. Over to the
Yes,
Habit Lab. Thank
yes.
you.
So, hi everyone. We chose the name the Habit Lab, because we believe excellence isn't a fixed trait that you're born with. It's a result of experiments you run on your own internal process. And by focusing on habits, we move away from searching for the best person, and we start engineering the best way instead. So we can turn individual breakthroughs into a shared methodology so the entire team improves. This will ensure that this growth is scalable and never ending. Now, to move on to our pitch. Over to you, Nehal.
yeah, moving forward. So, questioning the usual way, we keep using old methods because they feel so safe. But a system that never improves slowly becomes weak and outdated. The changes starts when someone asks, "Is there a better way?" Usually, this happens when we are working and not getting. We are working too much and getting the smaller results. That is a sign that the system is not working well. Innovations is not about the genius ideas, but I think it's regularly checking how we work and improving it step by step. Moving forward, yeah, by seeing the process, most of the people just do the task without thinking. But when the system thinker step back and watches their own work like an outside consultant, they look there are problems in the process. When you become aware how do you work and still notice the work, we can see the repeated mistakes. The problem are invisible when you are rushing. Like awareness help us to debug your workflows, right? It's like fixing a error in the computer programming code, whether we can in any language it will be. Can you move forward? Yeah, so even a big task is actually made from a small decision. If you're improving those small steps, the whole system can be made better. Even a small improvement, just like fixing the communication between the two people, can improve the major bottleneck in the workflows and can create a big result too. Instead of blaming people why it's going wrong, we should treat the work like a machine, and if the machine fails, we should open it and find the actual part and we should fix it. This is this is a system mindset which will help us to improve the process. Moving forward to Swam.
Thanks, Nihal. So if I were to question talent or method, so if a result can be replicated by someone else using the same process, it is system. So why we rely on talent? Performance is tied to individuals. So when individual leaves, we lose this performance. So that is the risk. So when we rely on systems, performance becomes transferable, trainable, and also repeatable. Excellence is not an elite trait anymore because we are engineering it with the systems. So the real question is who is not like who is talented. The real question is what process produce the result and what we can do to replicate it. So moving on to the next slide, experience or improvement. So experience alone does not create growth. Repetition without reflection creates a plateau. If we do something 100 times without questioning it, we don't gain mastery. We just automate mediocrity. So the system mindset treats every repetition as a test run. So we question what worked, what failed, where is the friction, what can be redesigned. Improvement is not about time served, it's about feedback loops. So moving on to the next slide, please. So finding the important 20%, as we discussed earlier, productivity is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters. Most people try to work harder on everything. That's a fixed effort approach. System mindset asks which 20% of actions create the 80% of the results. If we don't consciously identify this 20%, we get stuck optimizing on low impact work. So business is not impact. The usual way of working hides the critical levers, and the system helps us expose this critical levers exactly. So the goal is not maximum efforts, but the goal is actually maximum leverage. That's what real productivity looks like. And thank you. Moving on to Drishti.
Yes. So a systems approach views preparation not as overthinking, but as an engineering phase that ensures the action phase would eventually be successful. Uh, s- a fixed reaction to pressure is that, we'd start immediately, we have a deadline, let's jump into execution. But preparing first is a growth strategy to ensure that the method is sound. Our stance is that smart preparation is something that the moment you have mapped the small parts of the task and have a clear vision of the first iteration, then that is your point where you can start. The few people who perform better, they are not superhumans. They have either developed or stumbled upon a better internal system. So by sharing these good habits, we can move on from the culture of a star player to a star team, where everyone benefits from the good habits of one person in the team. And the goal of our team is to turn individual talent into a company-wide methodology. In conclusion, we promote productivity as a way of life by rewarding the debugging of processes rather than just the final output. Excellence is a learned skill. There is nothing like talent that you're born with. It's habits that make you who you are. And creating a library of shared methods that anyone can use will always lead uh, to a system level growth for the entire team. So instead of ranking individual talent, we must commit to debugging our processes and create a culture where the goal is to refine the system until the best way becomes our everyday standard. Thank you.
Over to team Pareto practitioners for questions.
Yeah, I would like to go first. So Swayam mentioned that growth mindset uses systems to identify the 20% of the task that yield 80% of the results, right? So I want to know, so like, what are the mechanisms that growth mindset uses to filter out the systems?
As I said, we need to question everything we are doing. So if first of all, we need to define the, result. What is the result we are looking for? And the growth mindset is like we are not relying on the everyday tasks, but we are questioning everything we have done, and if it's actually, giving us the result we need. If it's like what is the actual measurable outcome, and we decide first, and then for each activity we actually question like if this activity is moving the needle, or are we just feeling productive. So we filter these things, and I think that is where the mindset comes into the role. Did I
Does
answer
that
your
answer your
question?
question?
Yeah.
Thank you, Aditya. Who's going next?
I have one question, that is, suppose a system is optimized too tightly. So, what do you think? Does that reduce flexibility? And if so, why?
I think your question is if it's too optimized, too tightly optimized, and yeah, definitely it's constrict, like it's not flexible, right?
At any point, if anything becomes a dogma, ki this needs to be followed, or if it becomes too rigid, that goes against what we are trying to say entirely. Because what we're saying is that every point we need to question if this is the right way, if this is what is moving the outcome. And if it is not, then we need to change something. So at any point, won't become rigid. We'll always be questioning and improving. If something that worked before is not working now, it will be changed.
Okay. And in the cases of uncertainty, I mean, something unexpected happens. And in that case, what would be your like viewpoints?
Uh,
How to?
Debanjana, this is not a general Socratic dialogue on systems thinking and systems building. What they're saying is you don't need talent, you need better systems. If you have better systems, any ABC talent can give you the result. So we can ask them questions around that. It's a bold claim to make. Let's make use of this time to ask them these questions.
Okay, so I would go next. If it's okay, Devanjana.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Nihal mentioned that when people tend to, they have a pressure, they tend to like think that they have to quickly finish a task, and they are inherently blind to the operational friction points. So he mentioned friction points. So what are those friction points, and why do they get blind towards it?
Yeah, because what happens, they are having the pressure that they have to finish the work too early. They don't think about what they are doing. So basically, they are rushing. So what they have to do is they have to come with up and think very neatly or calmly that what their work is pending and what they have to do exactly. Like they need to first clarify that I have to do this task and how I can and do it quickly, efficiently, and how it will not be rushed and it will be done in proper time. Like they have to do their work efficiently. They have to think upon that and they can proceed with the work.
Okay, so you use the word metacognition. So I would like to know more about that. Like, I don't understand the word properly. So what's metacognition?
Aditya, is that related to how they're building productivity as a
Yeah,
culture of
like yeah, they mentioned it.
related somehow?
Yes, they mentioned it in the slide that they use metacognition to increase productivity. So I would like to know what is it? How is it built?
Metacognition is basically awareness about your own thought processes and strategies. It's basically self-awareness, just a fancier word for that, I would say.
How do you build
Okay,
self-awareness into a system? Because you've talked about, not
By
enabling.
by including feedback loops inside our system where people have the chance to reflect on their mistakes about what is working, what is not, and make changes based on these reflections.
So I would ask you a follow-up question.
Hmm.
So if you introduce metacognition, won't it slow down the process for a short amount of short term time? And if it does, so how does a team survive that? Like the temporary dropout from the post execution. How does a team survive that?
Um, there are two, suppose I'm starting a new project, right? I can go two ways. I can make a plan and I can implement that plan for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. What if by the end of 4 weeks I realize that, okay, this is not producing the output I want? Instead, wouldn't it be better that, I roll it out in a small amount first, then I have a feedback loop in place that will give me feedback on if I'm going in the right direction. Then again, I make the changes, I make it better, roll it out with bigger uh, amount of people, and then test it again. When these feedback loops are in place, it makes sure that we're not moving in the wrong direction and eventually wasting a longer amount of time and effort.
Yeah, but that doesn't answer my question, Drishti. My question was when you do that, there's a short-term delay in your task. Like if you follow a clarified structure, you actually move very fast. But if you think about it, if you start, taking feedbacks, taking reviews, there's a
Hmm.
short-term delay. So how do you fix the dropout of that delay?
Do you think that is that there would be necessarily a drop off?
Exactly. See, if you are doing the task entirely, like if you're following
Hmm.
given steps. There's a workflow. You follow this step, then you do that, then you do that. It is a clear execution step, and at the end, you will see whatever the outcome is. So you will reach that outcome very fast. But if you start taking reviews, if you start questioning every task, if you start asking the questions why, there will be a clear, there will be a clear delay because you are thinking about it. You are before every step, you will think about your process. So that, according to me, would create a short-term delay. And how would you fix that?
I don't think that needs to be fixed because I think that is worth the time and energy it is saving. And it is a necessary part of the system itself. So it is not a delay, it is just the next step.
I mean,
Uh,
I would like to add that, I mean, first of all, let's make it clear. What do you even want? Like, are you focusing on completing the task or are you focusing on the quality of the output? So if you think we are bringing some delay by and like, implementing feedbacks, I mean, it's done because we want to improve productivity and improve the output rate. So if our focus is on improving the output quality, I don't think getting some delays is a big problem.
okay, so you think like a delay isn't a major problem. Small delay isn't a major problem if you are focusing on
If
output.
it's your focus, yeah, if your focus is
I do
on
not
getting
believe
high
it should
quality
be
output.
viewed as a problem.
I think it shouldn't be named as a delay, it's a buffer.
Yeah,
Yes.
You take it into your project timelines. Review is a part of your project timeline. It's not a delay that you're adding extra additionally. It's a part of your plan when you make it. Okay,
Okay.
who has the next question? We'll take maybe two more questions before closing the session.
Yeah, I have a question for both of the teams. The very first question is that what
Pratik,
if you
right
ignore
now,
the
please for
most?
Habit Lab. Right now, please for Habit Lab. Then we can have both the teams during reflection.
Oh, okay, sure. It's if your organization, whatever your organization you're working on, is underperformance, then what would be the cause? The individual talent or the institutional design?
Institutional design, the systems design.
Yeah,
How?
might be system design might be lacking. So from today's PDGM session, what we understood is like Tarun gave us the example, right, of uh, like one have to enter the data. One person has to enter the data in the DMARC. Like they
What
have
could be the
they
metrics? My question is, what could be the metrics to design your system?
first understanding where the problem is, like the core problem and where the system is lying would be the main point to view.
Okay, the problem is talent. Then how will you design it?
I don't think problem might be talent. because
Why?
this, because
I
if we
get your
design our
question that talent is not something that, you know, something just someone just is some it is not something that someone is just born with. It is something that we can inculcate through good habits and feedback loops. So if it
Okay,
is a
so
talent issue, it again boils down to a systems issue.
okay, so can I get that talent is directly proportional to skill?
That is the exact opposite of what they're saying. They're saying talent doesn't help you scale because you can have one good person, you cannot have 1,000 good person. But you can have one system that produces 1,000 good people. So they're saying system is the way to scale. Did I get it correctly? Guys, tell me.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I have a question if I may.
Please, this is the last question. Please go ahead. No one take follow-ups after this.
Okay. So you guys mentioned that productivity isn't about doing more. So how does that assertion challenge conventional workplace metrics?
What
can
does
you
Sorry, can you
repeat the
repeat your
question?
question again,
this
please?
metric?
Uh, I would answer Swayam's request. So I would repeat my question. So you guys mentioned productivity isn't about just doing more, right? So in conventional workplaces, we have to, tell everyone that these are the hours we work and these are the lines of codes we wrote. So these are conventional workplace metrics. So how does it challenge it?
It
Since you know,
challenges it by changing the reward system. We're not rewarding the outcome now. We're rewarding how much of the process is debugged, how much of the process is being improved. We're changing the entire reward system in our pitch.
okay, that is correct. But like how would you then calculate a team's ability to focus? Like if like apparently in the conventional workplaces, we calculate their work hours, calculate their lines of codes. So it's a quantifiable process. We measure the quantity. But if you do like if you say like productivity isn't about doing more, how will you quantify their work then?
The new metrics can be who has built the best library of shared experiences where they've debugged a
But
process.
isn't that situational? Like isn't it subjective? Every person can think differently.
I think you're confusing this reward system with the metrics that if you're asking about the metrics don't have to change. We can still measure people based on their KPIs and all of that. These are measurable quantities. But we will be rewarding them for improving the process. KPI is a target, right?
Okay,
Targets anyways have to be reached. We're not changing the target in any way.
okay, but like this actually contradicts your
Aditya,
previous.
I'll have to stop you here. I would love to take your question. We can take it offline. However, in the interest of time, we'll have to close the session. We'll close the session with three reflections from the team. Whoever wants to go ahead, please. You can unmute yourself and go ahead with your reflection.
Today's session and building this pitch made me realize that, even in my team, there are still places where uh, feedback loops need to be integrated in a better way, in uh, and more frequently than they are right now. And it made me realize that, if something is breaking in my team, even there have been times where I have thought it is a people problem. But in the end, it is always a systems problem. So whenever this pops up in my head, I'll try to figure out where my system is broken at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Drishti. Who's going next? what are your takeaways from the session? Okay. Yeah, who was going to speak? Who do you want to speak? Okay, if nobody's going ahead, we'd like to close the session.
Can
Okay.
I?
Thank. Yeah,
Uh,
you should
can-
have done that before. I just said we would like to
sorry,
close.
sorry, sorry,
Go
sorry.
ahead, take 2 minutes.
So according to me, like after this session, I understood that true productivity, it does not, it stems from shifting your mindset from a blind executor to like an outside consultant. Outside consultant will observe your task. They will think like an outsider instead of just focusing on the target. So by just doing that, by thinking like an outside consultant, it would increase the productivity and it would increase your in general efficiency of the task.
Okay. Thank you, Aditya.
So guys, great session. So I like the way how the Pareto practitioners team talked about the organization level perspective, and the Habit Lab talked about the individual perspective on increasing the productivity. So my take here is, what I would say, I personally think is, in startups, the Pareto practitioners principle may not be applicable. And as you told that you guys are concentrating on MSMEs and SMEs. So, so in that perspective, I would say this is not valid. It may work, but not as much as we talked about. 80/20 doesn't work. The ratios may differentiate. So what I personally can say is, in our organization, everyone is very crucial. We selectively take the team members, like high team members. So this ratio doesn't work. And when it comes to, tracking the matrices of each and every member in the team is very important, to increase the overall, productivity of, I mean, to increase the efficiency, basically, not productivity, efficiency of the work. So yeah, great pitches. Thanks for educating me.
Thank you for being here. It was very interesting to have you
Thank
here.
you so
With,
much.
with that, we'll close today's Socratic dialogue. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next Saturday.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.